There was a season in my business where it felt like every 30 days I had a new plan and I was redoing everything that I had already been doing. Um, you know, you know what I'm talking about. New funnel, new content strategy, new like, oh my God, this is it. Here's the thing. And, on paper, it looked like momentum. Even while I was doing it, it felt like momentum, but it was actually chaos in disguise because although it felt good to have the new shift, it felt good to have that new strategy in place. I was really just reinventing the wheel, and it was just chaos coming back in the form disguised as momentum. If it doesn't light you up, it won't sell. And that is your sign to shift things in your business. Hi, I'm your host, Maggie Olson. I'm your business mentor, your human design expert, and the creator of the Magnetic Method Designed to Convert formula. I help women entrepreneurs just like you simplify their strategy, align their sales with their energy, and finally build a business that feels like freedom, not like pressure. After nearly 2 decades in entrepreneurship, I have learned that success isn't actually about doing more. It's about aligning with what already works for you, tapping into your natural energy. And here on the Chaos to Clarity podcast, we're going to blend human design with practical business strategy to help you attract clients naturally, sell with confidence, and grow with ease. So if you're ready to design a business that lights you up, converts with clarity, and learn more about working with me inside of the Magnetic Method mentorship and all of my other programs, you're going to find the link to all of that in the show notes, and you're going to find all of that information here on the podcast. So let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. Hello and welcome back to the Chaos to Clarity podcast. My name is Maggie. I'm your host and your magnetic sales and systems mentor. And today I am so excited to be talking about the yes-no audit. And we're talking about the yes-no audit in terms of why you keep changing your strategies and how to stop. And I'm not saying stop as in you're not ever going to create a new strategy again, but how to stop changing them all of the time. Now, if you're a manifesting generator, I know you know what I'm talking about. And even if you're not a manifesting generator, but you're always feeling like every 30 to 45 days, I just can't help it. And I need to switch things because it feels like things aren't working. That's what we're talking about today. So I just want to name the pattern that this is because I have built businesses that worked on paper, even in real life, right? Like in life, they are successful, but behind the scenes, I felt like I was very scattered. I was exhausted and really like I was constantly tweaking something or kind of like waiting for the other shoe to drop. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I'm waiting. I'm trying this new thing. And I'm like, kind of half-ass all in, but not quite full all in. And, this could look like things like new CRM, new content format, new funnel ideas, a brand new spreadsheet, or you're going to you found a new GPT to put into chat. And, it's basically like, this new thing is finally going to make it all click. But here's something that I want to point out to you is that strategy whiplash is not necessarily a strategy problem, and strategy whiplash in the means of like 1 month I'm here and then the next month I'm there and then I'm jumping everywhere. It really comes down to being a decision problem. And sometimes when you make the choice to switch, you're still kind of in the back of your head wondering, is this it? Is this the thing that's finally going to make it click? Or you're also just basically telling yourself, this is it. This has to be it. This is going to be the thing that makes it click. And then here it comes. 30 days or so later, maybe 6 weeks later, you're tweaking it or you're replacing it or you're quietly abandoning it and you're wondering, oh my God, why didn't this thing work? You're probably calling yourself a little bit flaky and you're like, why can't I have what those other people have? At least that's what I've found myself and my clients. They say that a lot to me when they come in. They share, like, I wish I was further along. And I just want to say, I think that's a pretty common thought for everyone. I have thought that numerous times in my 20 years of business. And really comparing myself to others. I know comparison is a trap, but honestly, we're all human. And, sometimes you need to have that little bit of comparison to go, okay, am I on the right path? And am I truly doing what I want to be doing? Now, some people might say, like, oh, don't get stuck in the comparison trap. But I think, at least for me, it's healthy for me to see that and go, okay, here's what's happening, and really utilize the data. So, something that I've come to notice in the online space is most online business advice is half advice, right? Think about it from this point of view. Someone says to you, you have to generate leads. Okay, where? How? How to track them? When to follow up? Some people don't even know to track them, right? Some people don't even know to follow up. So generate leads, it gets into this kind of, I would say, gray area or generic advice. Yes, everyone in business is going to need to generate leads, but you, as the business owner, have to understand and lean into, here are the ways I'm going to generate those leads. Here are the places I'm going to connect with people. Here are the ways I'm going to track them, to keep track of them so that I don't lose something. And from what I've seen and what my clients have told me, no one really teaches implementation discipline. They just teach the excitement. They teach you to get really excited. Oh, yay, go out and generate leads, talk to people, blah, 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 blah. The difference in when you work with me is that I help you understand how to actually implement this stuff, which is why the 20 leads in 2 weeks framework that I created that's inside the Magnetic Method program is so, so important. It teaches you how to implement the discipline of showing up every day to generate leads. Now, I'm not talking about generating leads for hours and hours and hours on end. I'm talking about 20 minutes a day. I'm talking about 20 minutes a day, really as often as you'd like it to be, right? So for someone who maybe has more energy, maybe they're going to show up in 2 20-minute segments per day, maybe 4 days a week, right? It's up to you. But I give you that 20-minute framework of, here are things you can do to go through. Here are the boxes you can check every single day to generate more leads. Now, when I was putting this episode together, I really realized that a lot of times in business, there are 2 types of yeses and 2 types of nos. Now, I have gate 29 as my sun gate in my human design chart, which means I am basically hardwired to say yes to everything. So I have a sacral definition, right? I'm a manifesting generator, and I have gate 29. So like for me, if someone says, do you want to, I'm already like, yes, I'm in. You don't even have to finish the sentence, which is great. And it's also can be very taxing because I am very prone to, now this might also be some of that leftover people-pleasing tendency, right? I think that we all just learned as we grew up. So yes, I love to do things, but what I have learned is I need to, when I feel that excitement bubble, I need to sit back and go, okay, what kind of excitement is this for me? Which gets into the 2 yeses, okay? So the first kind of yes is what I like to call the novelty dopamine yes. It's exciting, it's new, it feels like relief, and it requires no proof of consistency yet, right? So it feels like a fresh start every time. That's probably dopamine, right? If you feel like, finally, yes, here is the thing, this is it, I am ready, it's probably a novelty dopamine. And from a sacral perspective, right? If you're looking at it from that human design lens, like I said, I love new things. I'm a manifesting generator. I have gate 29 as my sun gate. I'm a sacral authority. So all of those things really play into that. Ooh, I love that new thing. However, it doesn't mean I get to abandon things every time they get boring, which I have had happen. My clients have had that happen as well, even not being sacral authority, right? I've had a lot of projectors actually come in and work with me, and they will share that, well, I just get bored doing this, like waiting for the invitation. I'm getting bored. So I switch and I do something else, and they're not really consistent. And again, last week, in one of the last episodes, I talked a lot about consistency and how you get to decide what your consistency is, right? I don't think my consistency is the same as your consistency, and that's okay, right? In fact, I encourage that. I encourage all of my clients. Figure out what consistency is for you. That's why I've built systems in my programs the way that I've built them, because they allow me to get that quick hit of like, oh, okay, I have 20 minutes. I'm going to do my 20 leads framework right now. 20 minutes, I feel very, very like I get that hit of dopamine from, like doing something and accomplishing a task, completing the task. And then I also know that I'm moving my business forward with money generating activities. And that's the important piece here that, like people will say, oh, you're a projector, you don't have to be consistent. And to that, I would say no. In fact, you're wrong, right? Like I believe everybody can be consistent in their own way. They have to know what yes is for them. They have to know what no is for them, but you can develop consistency every single day. You eat meals every single day. You probably brush your teeth every single day. You walk every single day, right? Like you get up and move your body every single day. That is consistency. You sleep every day. That's consistency. So anyway, all right, back to this. Yes, number one, the novelty dopamine, right? So if you're feeling like, oh, I just need something new and exciting, it's time for like a timeout and go, okay, but why? Right? And that's something that a lot of people don't ask is, okay, I'm feeling like I want this new thing, but why? What is happening that I'm not really leaning into in my business, that I'm just bouncing from thing to thing? So now I said there's two types of yeses and two types of nos. So I'm going to go into the second type of yes, which is what I like to call the embodied fit yes, which is something that you can see yourself doing for at least 90 days. It doesn't necessarily feel super flashy, but it does feel stable. And it does not spike your nervous system. So you don't get this like, yay, right? Which you might get the yay, the yes, the sacral, ooh, this feels exciting. But it's not a spike to your nervous system where it's like, ooh, exciting. And oh, it's going to be a lot of work, right? It's not necessarily that. And yes, it's going to feel like work, but also similar. I want to say, like this is like the 20 leads in 2 weeks framework here. It's not flashy at all, but it is stable. It allows you to show up in your time when you want to for your business to build your dreams. It's something you can do for 90 days. In fact, I encourage all of my clients who come through any of my programs, whether that is a 2-hour strategy call or, the 6-month group program or the 6 months one-on-one or longer. These are things that I tell my clients, these are things you need to do to show up for your business. Can you farm them out someday? Yes, you can. You can hire a VA to do these things. But most of the people that I'm working with, they are working on their own. They're not in a position to necessarily bring on team members yet. In fact, a lot of people come to me when they're in that interim of like they're growing, they're making money, they want to generate more so that they can bring on team members, whether that's one person or a few of them. So The embodied fit yes is the real yes that feels boring at first because it's not a rescue plan. It is commitment. It's a commitment to yourself and to your business. Now, I said there were 2 yeses. There's also 2 nos. Okay. So getting into the first type of no, this is the true misalignment. It's your body going, stop. No, we don't like this. It's that pit in the bottom of your stomach. Even if you don't have a defined sacral, you will still likely feel this pit in the bottom of your stomach if it's truly not aligned for you. So it shows up as dread. You procrastinate even when you feel rested. It feels heavy consistently, and it really just drains your energy. And you just feel like bogged down by it. Now, like I said, I have gate 29 as my sun gate, which your sun gate is like 70% of who you are. So I have learned to trust that, right? I've learned to trust my sacral, to trust my sun gate. When I start to feel that pit in the bottom of my stomach, I know something is misaligned. I know that it's not truly what I want to be doing. And that's where I step back and I think about, okay, if this is not truly aligned, well, what needs to come next in this alignment? Where do I need to align? Now, no number 2 is fear or discomfort, or fear of discomfort. So no number 2 is fear of discomfort. And this is basically you're feeling exposed, you're feeling visible, you kind of feel uncertain, but you know that it's probably necessary. So some would call this like a necessary evil, but I don't necessarily want you to think of it that way. It's more along the lines of like, oh, well, this isn't super flashy, but it does feel aligned. And I'm just not sure. What if I don't like it? Is usually like some of the things that clients will say to me. Oh, I don't know. Can I do that? Is usually what a lot of people will say. And what this is really kind of showing up as is, they don't truly believe, my clients don't always truly believe that they can be consistent. They've conditioned themselves to be inconsistent. Now, I'm not saying consistency and inconsistency need to be your personality, but it is a decision you make when it's time to sell. So no matter where you're selling to people, you need to be visible. Now, the more you show up in front of the people that you're speaking to, the more they are going to take in what you're talking about, and know, like, and trust will then follow, and then they will feel seen, heard, and understood. So I'm not saying that you need to be consistent in the fact, like, thinking about this from like, oh, I have to show up on social media 24/7. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you think about it this way, if you are showing up on social media 1 time per month and you have 1,000 followers, those 1,000 people have a 1 out of 30 chance of seeing you, right? So very, very small. Now, if you're showing up 3 times per week, okay, well, now you're showing up 12 times per month, right? Which is 12 out of 30, which is a lot more than 1 out of 30. Now, if you're showing up, even if you're posting 5 times a week, if you're having conversations 5 times a week, again, we're thinking about this as like a 20-minute sprint of your energy, right? So 5 times a week, 5 times 4 is 20. You're showing up 2/3 of the month, right? That's a lot more than 1 out of 30. So, that discomfort, yes, it might be uncomfortable in the beginning, but what if it's uncomfortable because you're not used to doing it? Okay? Now, this leads into basically what my clients like to call the 90-day proof test, right? It's something that I developed for myself and then brought into the magnetic method. It's the filter that I use And before I implement anything new, I always ask myself, and I tell my clients to ask themselves this too. Can I see myself doing this for 90 days, even when it is not exciting? Because that is the part that, if you're in business and you're like, man, this is kind of boring. Yeah, it is. There's a lot that's boring in business. And that's okay, because you know what? There's so much that you get to do in business that's so cool and really fun. And there's also stuff that it's like, oh, well, this is kind of boring. I didn't expect that. And I think that is something that people who are newer to business, or maybe they've had that plateau in business, that they're like, oh man, I didn't think it would be this boring, right? I have to show up and do the same thing. Okay. And I don't want that to be taken as like a Debbie Downer, because I feel so lucky to be an entrepreneur. I feel so lucky to be in charge of the things that I'm in charge of, to get to connect with the clients that I am connected with. Okay. So when I think about implementing something new, when my clients also think about implementing something new, I've trained them, I've encouraged them to ask themselves, can I see myself doing this for 90 days, even when it's not exciting? And then after that, I ask them, and these are things that I also ask myself, okay? I ask, would I still do this if no one applauded me? And, you can take my podcast as an example, okay? Because in the beginning, I was like, oh, this is so fun. This is so cool. And it still is, don't get me wrong. I love yapping on the internet, but it is a lot of work. Right? It is a lot of work to produce and create and, maintain a podcast. So when it got to about 90 days and I was like, wow, this is a lot of work, I started asking myself, like, could I still do this even if no one was applauding me for doing this, right? Because, after about 90 days, the novelty tends to wear off, and things start to get, they start to slow, and it's kind of that slow simmer that starts to happen. So would I do this if no one applauded me? And then can I track this clearly? Does my energy fit this? Or does this fit my energy? Or am I trying to copy someone else? Because a lot of times this third question is where people are like, oh yeah, it was something that I saw someone else do and I figured I could just do it. But here's the thing. Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. But you're never going to do it exactly like that other person. And I want you to remember that, because you get to put your own spin on this. And that's the really cool part about being an entrepreneur, is you get to put your spin on something, which is also why a lot of people see that the strategies that they download or the coaches that they work with, like those exact strategies don't work for them, because it wasn't built for their energy. They can't keep up with it, right? So when you bring on and connect with a coach, when you join a coaching program, what I tell all of my clients is, I'm going to give you whatever you want to know. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to help you, I'm going to share with you. And it's your job to make this your own. We're going to make it your own so that you can show up and do it, so that it feels like you, not so that it feels like an extension of me, because how things work for me are not necessarily how they will work for you. So let's bring in a little bit more human design here, because I think it's important to understand how you can really start to tie things in here. So think about this from the perspective of your authority. So your authority is not there to make quick emotional decisions. It's there to prevent regret. Now, yes, you can say, a sacral authority is going to give you that more in the moment feedback. Even a splenic authority is going to, right? But you have to understand how your yeses and your nos work before you're really going to be able to feel the effects of your authority. Now, I will say, I learned this the hard way, right? Having gate 29 as my sun gate. Now, I know I've talked a ton about gate 29 in this podcast, but your sun gate, which is the first gate on the right-hand side of your chart, that is 70% of you, of your personality. So when I started understanding that, right? And, when you look at the gene keys, the shadow of gate 29 is half-heartedness or half-assing. So when I started understanding that, when I looked at that and I was like, oh, okay, so this explains why I'm constantly bebopping around to all kinds of things, spinning 27 plates, thinking I can keep them all going, when really I don't want to. I don't want to. But there are plates that I do want to keep going, right? Which is why and how I've been able to balance, right? And I've dropped plenty of the plates, trust me. But I've been able to rebalance a lot of them so that it does feel more even, so that I'm not regretful of, oh, this thing is taking too long, or, oh, here it is again, Sunday, and I'm working. No, I can take off when I need to take off, right? So what happens, and I saw this firsthand with myself, and I just helped a client move through this as well, is we tend to override things like that because we're impatient. We want it to work, and we want it to work yesterday because, I got to make money now, right? That's what my client said to me the other day. I got to make money now. I don't have time to wait. I don't have 90 days to wait. But here's the thing. When you're not consistent, right, you're probably not going to make money. So you have to understand your energy. And then you have to define your consistency. How often do you want to show up? What kind of conversations do you want to have? Where do you want to sell? How do you want to sell? What are you selling? You have to make those choices so that it's clear, so that, again, you have your clear client journey, so that you know how someone is going to go from cold to sold in your network, in your ecosystem. And, the real reason most people don't make consistent money is not lack of talent. It's quite honestly lack of patience. So if you're not patient, and if you don't sit down and define some of these things, it's not going to work, because the universe is going to be like, well, yeah, okay, I'll send people to you, but how are they going to, what are they going to do? Okay. Now, let's apply this to some real business choices, because I want this to feel really practical for you. So these are some examples of things where, my clients have had to choose between some of these things. Now, a lot of people do all of these things. So, and I will say, I definitely do a mix of some of these things. So when we're thinking about, bringing this into real business decisions, these are things like, do you offer a freebie, or do you have a DM strategy? Now, you could have both. You could have both in some way or another, right? If you join my Facebook group, there is a question in there that asks if you want a freebie. You give your email, I send you an email with the freebie, and then I follow up in the DMs and say, hey, so-and-so, so glad you're in my group. Great to see you here. I sent the freebie to your email. Let me know if you've got it. Okay, so I do combine some of these. Now, the next one, webinar versus direct conversations. Now, you can combine these. These are all things you can combine. I love a webinar, a masterclass, chef's kiss. Love that. However, in this example, this is meaning you offer a webinar or a masterclass, or you only do direct conversations, right? Email list versus social only. Launching every now and then, or evergreen. Group versus one-on-one. Now, it's not about which one is the best, because quite honestly, they can all be good, right? But it's about which one you'll commit to long enough to see if the data works. Now, for me, I can safely say that masterclasses and DM strategies utilizing social media really are my sweet spot, because I get to talk to people. I get to connect with them, right? I get to ask them questions. I get to respond to them. Now, let's bring this to a little bit of a personal story for me. Okay, so again, there was a season where I did keep changing systems every 30 days and nothing was sticking. Revenue was up and down. And I literally kept thinking the problem was the tools that I was or wasn't using. And really, it kind of just basically looked like me opting into all kinds of different tools and then going, I don't like any of these tools. I don't like how they work. I don't understand. I'm not taking the time to see if they do or don't work. But I just want to say the tools were not the problem. Okay. It was me being unwilling to sit in the boring middle long enough to see what worked. And ultimately, that's what brought me to creating 20 leads in 2 weeks, because I knew that I could show up 20 minutes a day. I knew that I could have 3 to 5 conversations in 20 minutes, and I didn't feel like I was trapped. Okay. Now, let's wrap this up because there's so much more. And I'm so excited for some of the future podcasts that I have that will be coming out over the coming weeks. Because we're just really talking more about all of this kind of nitty gritty business stuff and weaving it in with human design. So if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, I am probably novelty yesing myself into chaos because it low-key feels like chaos, but I'm telling myself it's productivity when really I'm just saying that I'm busy all the time, but I'm not really getting anything done. Okay, if that feels anything like you, I want you to either slide into my DMs and comment Audit, and I will share with you the link to book in a free offer audit. Because offer audits are where I help you in about 30 minutes figure out what your next right step in business is. So we look at your offer, we look at what you're doing, we look at your human design, and we just kind of go through and adjust things so that you can take that next right step. Also, remember that the Group Magnetic Method program is open. I do have limited one-on-one magnetic method spots open. I think I have 2 left for the month of February for one-on-one. There are always group spots open for you to jump right in. And I am so excited. So if you've listened this far, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, all the things. Make sure you slide into my DMs. Let me know what resonated the most in this episode. You can always find me at Maggie Lynn, Lynn, mentoring, or at the Chaos to Clarity podcast, both on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook. You can look for Maggie Lynn Olson, Olson. Add me as a friend. Let's have a conversation. I want to know what resonated for you in this episode, and I can't wait to talk to you so soon.